And here we are back again for episode 5 of the UHC, and just like that we see here where we left off last episode with Team Green. They have certainly seen someone in the distance, but taking up a strong position on top of a tall mountain. It might just be that this is a decision that the other team are not going to attack. They are going to have to cross water and run up a steep hill, so it's not exactly a good situation to approach in, but the other team doesn't let that stop them from taunting them. Team Yellow over here, standing down on the ground, outside reach perhaps, or at least outside reach enough for them not to be hit by the arrows. The green team on the other hand saying, screw it, we'll just move on and meet them later, taking us direction away from the other team to perhaps find someone else, perhaps not wanting to face down the yellow team quite yet, because the yellow team does have a couple of good PvPers, so it's a little bit risky to go up against them. Still, they are watching to see an opportunity, but just like that, Team Yellow ends up in a confrontation with Team Red. There's going to be trouble here. We have Team Yellow in the woods where they are covered, and Team Red in the open. It is a little bit of a troublesome situation. But still, Team Red does have a little bit of a hill to protect them. It's using the opportunity to collect some of the arrows that the other team is kindly depositing on the ground, free to pick up. However, it looks like the red team finally decides that this is not an ideal situation to fight in, so we're going to move back a little bit and try to find a stronger point of vantage. Moving up on top of the hill, this might just be it, but this is an ice hill, so it's going to be a little funky to try and take up a defensive position here. Still, it might just be that the guys attempt it. And true enough, they are back at it. The fight continues. The other team are trying to circle around and surround the hill, maybe trying to cut off their escape if they should decide to do so, or trying to get in some sneaky shots from the sides. It is risky to spread out, but it's also risky to stay together, so it is definitely a matter of what you personally excel at. See a lot of arrows here being expended, and we do see some sneaky shots from the sides, so let's see if anybody gets damaged enough to actually go down, or if this is going to be just the first confrontation without a death. Looks like the yellow team is a little careful about their approach here. They don't want to quite rush up the hill and run into a trap, so yeah, it's probably a good decision at this point of the game, especially because they just soul pack right there, return to the top of the hill to shoot down. But it doesn't stop them from trying to make a little bit of an approach from below. The other team, however, using this opportunity of uncertainty to move down and around a little bit, seeing if they can also manage to get off a few shots. However, being up higher is not an advantage at this point, since you will have the crowns of the trees blocking your view. Here we see how the progress is health-wise, and there is certainly a little bit of development. Some of the teams have taken a little damage, but it looks like the yellow team has opted to leave the battle for now, staying with the damage that they have caused and trying to find another team. And thus ends the first confrontation of this UHC. Now returning over to Team Red again, we see them here that after having seen the other team leave, they have turned around as well and is now maybe trying to cut them off, but they are meeting another team there in the distance. They might have noticed them, they might not have, but it doesn't look they're quite ready to engage them yet. As we can see down there below, we have Ernbop going for a little bit of a different strategy. He has disrobed completely, which leaves him quite vulnerable, but instead put on an invisibility potion. So that allows him to be quite sneaky. Team Yellow over here is on the mountain, scouting around to see if they can see someone approaching, and it might just be that they see the other team. Though I would be surprised if the other team hasn't noticed them. Not all of the team is sneaking though, so it might just be that they have not discovered the yellow team in the distance. Hopping over to the purple team though, we are on the move as well. And it looks like they have made the decision that going into the corners is not going to work at this point of the game, and instead just running along and seeing what they can find. Taking a little bit of a slow approach, and over there in the distance we do see something, because there is another team on the hill. Team Red has turned around and has discovered Team Purple in the distance. They are quite far away though, so I'd be surprised if we see an engagement at this point. Not without having the opportunity to sneak up behind them, but this approach is a little bit dangerous, so we'll have to wait and see what Team Red decides here. Oh, looks like Team Purple might have seen the other team, because they have positioned themselves on top of a hill, a bit away from them. And are now looking about. They have certainly discovered them, because they are aiming at the other hill, so the two teams are now aware of each other's position. But will they actually engage? The distance between them is quite far. You can see here there's a little bit of taunting going on in chat. The two teams perhaps deciding that this is not the ideal position. So let's hop back over to Red and take a look. It looks like they are also a little bit skeptical on whether or not to engage from this or allow the other team to escape. We'll have to wait and see. All teams are quite strong at this moment, so whoever enters into combat first does risk having the others drop on back of them, and also being dropped down in health themselves, but it doesn't stop them from taking a few pot shots here in another team, though I doubt that that team will actually engage them in combat, considering the positioning of Red team here. That is the trouble with placing yourself on top of a hill. It looks like the yellow team is considering it, but this is not the ideal position. Even though they did shoot a single arrow back, it would surprise me very much if they decide to enter into combat. And true enough, they decided instead to run off. It's the trouble with sitting on a hill. If you're sitting on a hill, the more defensible you are, and in the better spot you are compared to your opponent, the less likely your opponent will be to take the opportunity if they have other options. So choosing a path like that will make it a little bit boring for your team, even if you might end up winning by it in the end. But just as yellow team moves off here, we see another team in the distance, because they have managed to see the purple team. The purple team here being in a little bit of a tight spot. They are cornered by the water and the other team, so they are deciding to make a little bit of a cautious approach and would perhaps go up onto the mountain. The problem is, if one of the teams go up on the mountain here, the other would be in a bad position and probably retreat. And just like that, they enter into combat. Team Purple versus Team Yellow. And it looks like Jam has tried to get himself on top of the mountain here, but is thinking twice about it now that the other team is standing on the side of the mountain. At the moment we're having a little bit of a low down competition. Oh, and Team Purple is making the move. They're trying to scale the mountain before the other team can catch them and get the strong position on top of the mountain. If they can get on top of the mountain before the other team and before they move away, then they will be in a very strong position. However, it looks like Yellow has seen this move and has decided to leave. We are not dealing with that. We are not going to fight you on the mountain. Hey Chiefs, be nice to the horse. Didn't do you anything. And just like that, it looks like the fight with yellow team is coming to an end. But, as we see here, someone is approaching in the distance, because all of a sudden Team Red enters the field. Could it be that they are going to take over the combat? Well, Purple team has certainly seen them, and there goes the first arrow. The combat is on. Team Purple versus Team Red. But this is not an optimal approach for the red team, even though they did choose to enter the combat. This is a very strong position, so it might must be a position that they're actually going to attack on rather than taking a few simple pot shots. We're going to have to wait and see how the battle unfolds though. It looks like both teams are a little unsure of how to make the approach here. Team Red are not quite certain whether or not to actually go any further and closer up to the other team. It would be risky doing so, but you can get a little bit of damage in. And Bob here being brave and moving around. But with the hill so tall, it is a little troublesome. Oh, it seems that once upon a time, there was 4 little teams. Each team sat on their own little hilltop. They loved their bows very much. Then one day they ran out of arrows. And then they lived happily ever after in peace. Or at least that seems like the situation that we're facing in this UHC, and just as we see that, we encounter here a very, very bad strategy. We have what looks like Pink and Cheese pouring water on the side of the mountain to further reinforce the position. This is possibly the worst decision that you could make, because this is going to result in only one thing, namely the red team turning right around and leaving the combat. They are not going to put up with this. Just making themselves ready, and then they're going to leave, or I would be very surprised. You don't do this in a setting like this, guys, because if you do, the other teams will just completely ignore you. There is no way that the red team is going to approach the purple team in a situation like this. And even if someone moves around to try and flank them, the purple team could quite easily just jump down the waterfall to escape. It is not a good position for anyone, and just like I suspected, the red team has decided, no, that is not going to happen, we are leaving. That is how you ruin a fight. Bad idea, guys. A bad move by at least some of the purple team. It looks like Pie there is going to leave. Team Yellow, on the other hand, has entered into combat as well with Team Green. They're still a bit far from each other, and it looks like Team Green is trying to run away. Perhaps they were caught in a situation that was not quite ideal for them, and don't want to quite face up against the yellow team just yet. So they're trying to run through the field, but in doing so they are getting a little bit spread out. Trying to meet up, but it is very dangerous to run like this, so be careful, guys. The other team are quite close, as we can see there. We have one of the other team members just standing right there behind the ice, so if you get cut off from your team, you might just get taken out. Oh, we have Bash here. He is in trouble. He has been cut off by the other team and cornered by 2 of them, and he is taking some nasty shots. Oh, and he gets flanked, and there goes Bash. The first death of this UHC. And just like that, the yellow team disengaged, having taken out one of the other team members. Unfortunately for green team, just as that happened, Jackarou lost connection. Hopefully he will be able to enter the game, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Oh, Jackarou is back in the game. Wonder if something is going to happen there. Oh, and suddenly, all of a sudden, Lady dies. Team Purple and Team Red having entered into combat in a place that we have seen before. The same spot on the hill versus the tree line. But this time, even though they're choosing the same spot as before, the hill does not work quite as well for the red team, and it did lead to the death of Lady, unfortunately. Red team here being pushed back a little bit by the purple team, who bravely moved from the tree line to approach, trying to force the other team backwards. If they can push them up against the mountain while they're in a good position, they can get some damage in. But if the other team manage to get away over the hill before they approach fast enough, then they will have no way to follow them and might just enter themselves into a trap, and they seem to be knowing this as well because they are not making the approach now. This combat is over with another death. As we can see, Team Red is running away, but just as that happens, Jackarou gets caught up by the yellow team, having been cut off by the rest of his team. He is unfortunately taken out, falling to a combination of disconnect and bad luck. It's a bad way to go out of a UHC, sorry Jack, but unfortunately that's how it has to end. The third death. Hopping back over to Team Red, we are back on the mountains, one person down. It looks like Team Red has taken quite a bit of damage, both Pack and Paul quite low. It's going to be a little bit risky for the team now. Team Purple, on the other hand, here is moving over the mountains, and it looks like they have seen something in the distance. What could it be? Well, as it turns out, they have managed to find the red team and are now moving in to engage. The other team might have been caught a little off guard here, and this is not a good situation. Pack going down first, right next to Paul, who is standing in a bad situation and has no life. Paul goes down as well. However, Bob has disengaged from the combat and is going to head away probably, because there's no way that he's going to be able to avenge his fallen comrades in this situation. Sorting through the loot, we reach the end of episode 5. A lot of people dead, and it's now time to go to episode 6. See you then.